Peace, peace. This your host, Selah, Shalom. And this is a Cosmon Teachings in the words of Jehovah and his angel ambassadors from the Cosmon Bible, OAHSPE. And the topic of discussion today is called the Genesis account, in the beginning, part 1. Now, in creation there is order. Things do not just appear in creation. All things in creation are a process of manufacture. You see, if God said, "Let there be light," it is a process in manufacture in which light is produced. The Bible does not explain this process because the false God who inspired the biblical creation myth, and that false God did not explain it in his creation tale, but gave his own account of creation and interpretation. The 7-day creation story comes from the 7 tablets of creation, which I shared many times, which in return was inspired by false gods, the Anunnakis, or from the OAHSPE's perspective, Anu-Hasaj, the false Lord God. Now, OAHSPE clears up all these matters. So if God said, "Let there be light," how was this light manifested? How was this light manifested? Now let's explain this in its proper order of creation. In the OAHSPE, it states that a vortex is the cause of all created things, as stated in the book of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 6. For each and every corporeal world created I a vortex first. By its rotation and by the places in the firmament whither it traveled caused I, the vortex, to conceive the corporeal worlds. So in this verse, it clearly states that the vortex is the first cause of creation. So the vortex first is what we need to be aware of when it comes to creation being manifested. What is a vortex? A vortex is nothing more what we would consider a tornado, a hurricane, a cyclone, a whirlpool, a swirling galaxy. These all demonstrate vortexian current in nature, in creation. So there is no denying this. Now coming back to God said, "Let there be light." Now we are clear on what a vortex is. And we are clear that a vortex is the first cause of creation. All minerals are expressed in a gas form prior to their becoming a liquid or solid. It is minerals that make up all things in creation. So before any sun, moon, stars, or planet is created, a vortex has to be created first. Before a vortex is created, there is no motion and there is no time. All motion and all time comes from a vortex. By giving a rotary to gas, a vortex is created. So now, once a vortex is given motion or an orbit, what is the next step to creation? In the book of Jehovah, chapter 4, verse 15, it states, "First, as vapor, the vortex carrieth it forth, and as it condenses, its friction engenders heat, and its molten becoming as a globe of fire in heaven." See that? This is the process on how light is manifested in creation, being the first visible sight of creation. So when God said, "Let there be light," it was a globe of fire that was manufactured by the vortex. And this globe of fire was and still is today our sun. And notice how it mentioned that the vortex created a globe of fire, coming back to spherical objects in creation. In creation, worlds are globular. I know a lot of people go with the flat earth theory and all that stuff, but here when the vortex produces a body of light, of fire, it is globular. And here is some scientific proof.
What is the difference between fire in space and fire on Earth? A lot. Here on Earth, fire is under the dominion of gravity. Think of a candle. As the fire consumes the oxygen and heats the air, the hotter air rises and the heavier, cooler, unburned air sinks, replenishing the fire's fuel. Thanks, gravity.
And that which they attribute to gravity is not gravity, it's vortexian current from the vortex.
In space, this cycle doesn't happen. There's no such thing as lighter or heavier air in microgravity. Thus, the fire heats the air, which just sits around the flame, causing it to burn slowly, more of a smolder. This also means the flame burns equally in all directions, forming a globe instead of the flickering flame we are used to.
Forming a globe instead of the flickering flame we are used to. Forming a globe instead of the flickering flame we are used to. Forming a globe instead of the flickering flame we are used to.
So before any planet was created, the sun was the first manifested body of light, as stated in the book of Jehovah chapter 4 verse 7. A great vortex created I for the sun. And within this vortex and subject to it, I made the vortices of many of the corporeal worlds. The sun vortex I caused to rotate, and I gave it power to carry other vortices within it. According to their density and position are they thus carried forth and around about the sun. So again, when it comes to creation, there is order. Things just do not appear coincidentally. Again, the first cause of creation is the vortex. Second is the manifestation of light, produced by the vortex, being a ball of fire, which is the sun. Now, in the false creation account, it stated that the sun was created on the fourth day, which is false. Reason being, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, it states, "And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and morning were the first day." Now keep in mind, the sun was created on the fourth day. Now it is impossible to use the terms day, evening, and morning without the presence of a sun. The very definition of the term day, evening, and morning is directly related to the sun. So these words, morning, evening, and day, cannot be used until after the sun is created. And being that the sun was created on the fourth day, this makes this account false because it's out of order. Another point to address, according to the false account of creation, is that on the third day, God created the herbs, as stated. Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 through 13, it states, God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. Verse 12, "And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after its kind. And God saw that it was good." Verse 13, "And the evening and the morning were the third day." Now, keep in mind, this is the third day. But on the fourth day is when the sun, moon, and stars were created. Now, it is impossible to yield any fruit trees, any herbs, any grass without sunlight. As an herbalist, it is impossible to nourish a plant without sunlight. What would happen to a plant when it doesn't get sunlight? It dies. The same would be for the fruit tree, the same would be for the herbs, and the same would be for grass. So again, the biblical creation account is false and it's out of order and is not supported by factual truth, because a false God is the one who made the story up. And I went through this numerous times dealing with the wars against Jehovah in the 23rd arc cycle after the creation of mortals. When these stories came about, they altered creation, gave you a false creation account, which is the Sumerian creation account, the Egyptian creation account. All those are false counts of creation. Now coming back to the OAHSPE and the real perspective and order how things are created. So the point in case is to show that the sun, which is produced by the vortex, would have to be the first cause of creation. First the sun, then the planets, as stated in the book of Selah, chapter 5, verse 58, it states, Jehovah said, "The sun I made as the head of a serpent, and his phalanx made I as the body of a serpent. Thus made I the great corporeal serpent." So here again you have the sun being the head of the solar system, and the planets representing the body. OAHSPE describes our solar system as the great serpent, due to its motion and its orbit around the galactic center. So when God said, "Let there be light," it was the manifestation of the sun. After the sun was created, then were the planets created. In planetary creation, dealing with now planets being created, the same rules follow. A vortex has to be created first before a planet can be manifested, as stated in the book of Jehovah chapter 3 verse 6. Again, for each and every corporeal world, a corporeal world is a physical world, an earth-like world, created I, a vortex first. And by its rotation, and by the places in the firmament whither it traveled, caused I the vortex to conceive the corporeal earth. See that? So again, it's order to creation. The same rules for the sun's creation is the same rules for planetary creation. A vortex first. Now, before a planet is created, what is the next step after the vortex is in motion? Again, in the book of Jehovah chapter 4, verse 15 through 17, it states, "First, as vapor, the vortex carry it forth, and as it condense, its friction engenders heat, and it is molten, becoming as a globe of fire in heaven. Then it takes its place as a newborn world, and I set it in the orbit prepared for it." So the same way the sun is a globe of fire, so was the earth in its early development was a globe of fire. To quickly interject, in the book of Jehovah, chapter 5, verse 14, it states, "As a testimony to man, behold, the earth was once a globe of liquid fire." Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, chapter 1, verse 23, it states, "In the beginning of the earth's vortex, the current concentrated certain substances in the center thereof, whereby friction, the vortexia manifested in heat, so that when the congregation of materials of the earth's substance were together, they were as a molten mass of fire." So again, the process of creation for the earth is the same as the sun. First a vortex, then the manifestation of light, being a globe of fire, which is the sun, and then the next phase of creation goes into play. Now coming back to the book of Jehovah, chapter 4, verse 15 through 17, it states, "First as vapor, the earth carries it forth, and as it condenses, its friction engenders heat, and it is molten, becoming as a globe of fire in heaven. Then it takes its place as a newborn world, and I set it in its orbit prepared for it." Now we clear on that. Verse 16, "In the next age, I bring it into Simu, for it is ripe for the bringing forth of living creatures, and I bestow the vegetable and animal kingdoms." So now, the next phase of creation is the age of Simu, where the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms come into being, after the globe of fire has cooled down. That's the next phase of creation. Now, in the book of Jehovah, chapter 15, verse 14, it states, describing Simu, "As a testimony to man, behold, the earth was once a globe of liquid fire, nor was there any seed thereon. But in due season I rained down Simu on the earth, and by virtue of my presence quickened I into life all the living. Without seed created I the life that is in them." Now, what is Simu? Simu is a region in the firmament where the substance is rained down on earth to activate life. Now, this time period only happens during the time of creation. So it's a one-time event during the 4 ages of a planet. This takes place during the first age and a specific time within that first age. So this is not always concurrent. Now, as stated in the book of Jehovah, chapter 5, verse 4, it states, "Jehovah heard the words of man, and he answered him, saying, Let a sign be given to man, that he may comprehend Simu. Thereupon Jehovah caused the jellyfish and the green scum of water to be permanently coming forth in all ages, that man might understand the age of Simu, when the earth and the shores by the water, and the waters also, were covered over with commingled atmosphere and corporeal substance, and this was called Simu. Because by Jehovah's presence quickened he it into life, and thus made he all the living, both the vegetable and animal worlds. Not that Simu is jellyfish, or the green scum of water, for the earth in this day produced not Simu abundantly. Nevertheless, the jellyfish and the green scum of water are signs of that which was in that day of the earth." So here Simu is when the earth and the shores by the water, and the waters also, were commingled over with atmosphere and corporeal substance, and the substance was called Simu. And out of Simu was vegetables and animal and man created. So this is like a one-time event during the time of creation. You would have to be there to see it. And then after creation is the process of cohabitation, where animals come together and cohabit. But prior to cohabitation is creation. And with that, I'd like to say peace and blessings, and catch you on the next documentary. Shalom.